Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Scale with Choice Summit. I am so glad to have Alli Worthington with us today. Alli, thank you so much for being here and sharing your heart with our audience.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, would you mind just for a minute, for anyone who doesn't know you, just a little bit about your background and what keeps you busy today?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, where I live outside of Nashville with my husband, and we have 5 boys. That's our big claim to fame, is we're surviving, having 5 sons. The youngest is 11 and the oldest is 20. So the 20-year-old is actually a junior in college at this point. So we still count that he lives here with us because he does sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm an author and speaker and business coach. I'm also the co-founder of the Blissdom Conference. So I'm an Enneagram 7 for those of you who know about Enneagram. So I joke that I'm living my best Enneagram 7 life. I'm doing a lot of things.
I love that. And I think I saw that somewhere, like either on your Instagram or in a book. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's why she's so fun. Like when I read your book, I laugh. There's moments where I just like laugh out loud. I'm like, that's why she's so fun. Because she's 7. I'm a 3 with a 2 wing.
Yeah.
Enneagram Confessions.
I love it.
Which
You're an achiever.
I'm an achiever. I like to take people with me while I'm achieving. Yep. And when I'm unhealthy, it shows up just like a 3 with a 2 wing. And when I'm healthy, it shows up just like a 3 with a 2 wing. So apparently we're all very predictable. And so the Blissdom Conference is really exciting. I really recommend that you go. We're going to be talking about that quite a bit in our Facebook group after this video. So please join the Facebook group. And if you're going, say I'm going, and you never know, you might meet a new friend. So please make sure you do that. But Alli is talking quite a bit today about fierce faith when scaling, which is the title of her book. And I have it right here. It's like dog-eared and, got cool water on it and everything. And there was one page that stood out to me specifically that I see a lot of people struggling with when they're scaling their business. And it's 4 things that you most likely have said to yourself or are saying to yourself right now. So we're going to unpack each one of those 4 things. And I'm going to ask some questions to you, Alli, that I want to know. And I always think if I'm thinking it, probably other people are too. And hey, I can't help it. I'm going to hit you up for free advice, right?
Let's go for it. Let's go for it. I love it.
So here's the first thing that people ask is, I didn't know this was going to be so hard. Do you hear that a lot from the people that are in your community?
I hear that from people who are just starting out. I hear that from people who've been in business for years and years and years. I mean, that is a trigger for people. And as a business coach, one thing that I'm always trying to work with people on is we have to get out of this thought that if we're supposed to do something, if we have a dream and we're meant to do it, and this is our big thing in life that we're going to do, that if it's hard, we think that it's a signal that we're not supposed to be doing it.
I love that.
That's the problem. Like we imagine we have this dream, and I like to use the analogy of a field of dreams. Like we have this dream, whether we're scaling our business to a new level or we're branching out in our business to do something else. Here's this field of dreams, right? And you get to it, and if everything is hard, we think, oh, well, I'm not supposed to do it.
Yeah.
We think, oh, I thought this was for me, but I'm running into obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. So obviously this is not for me. I just, I had some bad dinner and I had this idea, and obviously it isn't for me. I listened to too many podcasts. I got a little excited. This is not for me.
Yeah.
But every dream, that field of dreams, every goal we have is going to be hard. We are going to get there, and there's going to be boulders and brush, and the soil is going to be terrible. And it is going to take sometimes months, sometimes years to bring it to where we want it to be. Mm-hmm. We think we're just going to roll up to our field and be like, oh, this is perfect for me. I'm going to throw down some seed and grow a garden. Well, no, we got to find a backhoe and clear out the rocks and then put on gloves and prepare the soil, and then we plant those seeds. So for many of us, I was just working with a woman this morning who she'd self-published a book. She wants to get into traditional publishing, and she's so frustrated that it's taking so long. And she said, I just can't believe there's a 2-year process from book idea to being on the shelf. I could publish my own book in 3 months. And I'm like, listen, if you want to do it well, and you want the support of a massive company behind you pushing you, you're going to have to get the bulldozer and get rid of the boulders and put on gloves and pull those weeds. That's how we really scale well. Like that's how we do it smart. And that's how, as women especially, we don't get frustrated that it's too hard and end up taking ourselves out of the game before we ever have a chance to play.
So good.
Because that's what we do, right?
And we do it. Do you think this is, because you and I have been working with entrepreneurs for a long time, do you think this is something that has become more common of a challenge or a thought as people are growing their business?
Yes, probably because of Instagram. It's a combination. Instagram, where everyone looks amazing and it's all success and happy joy all the time. But there are also people who make millions of dollars every year convincing you that if you spend $1,000 or $2,000 with them, you're going to be able to do that too.
Ooh, that's good.
I'm just being honest.
It is true.
And if you are inundated every time you open up social media with ad after ad, like this is the key to unlocking your future.
Yes.
You'll have everything you need to do what I do. Well, A, you won't, because everybody's different. But B, you're just left with this feeling like, well, if I just did this, then all of a sudden in 90 days or in 6 months, I could, have earned 7 figures or whatever your point A is to point B. And because of that, I think that most of us are walking around with a low-key disappointment in where we are, disappointment in how long it's taking, and disappointment in how hard it is.
Yeah. Why didn't that happen to me? Why didn't I get that success that fast?
Exactly.
Why wasn't I part of that person's success story? Right. And so there must be something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with my path. I think I'll keep choosing something else. Right.
Yeah. I mean, for my first book in 2006, I was walking up a bookstore aisle and I thought I should write a book. I didn't know what I was going to write a book about. And so I went back home to my dial-up internet in Rhode Island and Googled, how do you get a book deal? And the response was, you need to be famous. I wasn't. Infamous, which thank goodness I wasn't. Or well-connected. I wasn't any of those things. Or it's just not going to happen. And then the next, search listing said, but if you start a blog, then you can potentially show publishers that you have something that you want to say.
Yeah.
My next search was, what's a blog? It was 10 years from that Google search to the month that my first book was on the shelf. And then in 2 years, I published 3 books within 2 years. It takes time. Now, I probably could have done it years earlier, but I was busy scaling and I fell in love with the world of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But the initial quest to write a book led me into entrepreneurship. But things take time. Things are hard. There is sometimes wisdom that we need to acquire. There's strength that we need to acquire. There's experience.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a few years, even though it frustrates us that it takes longer than we want it to.
Yeah. How did you move through? So, I mean, that's a long time to write a book. Like, how did you move through those moments of like, I don't know. I don't know. Am I supposed to be doing this? I'm not sure. Like, what pushed you on the other side of that?
Well, to be quite honest, after I discovered the power of the internet and then I could build businesses and do all these things that I can do on the internet, I just kind of pushed the book idea to the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Because again, a book seems to take a long time, but as an entrepreneur, I can build things, I can sell things, I can go. So that went into the forefront.
Yeah.
And then once my business was really going well and I had that mental capacity, that's when I moved back into books. But even now I'm struggling through writing book 4, and it's not going to come out until September of 2020, which again requires so much patience, so much hard work. Every time I sit down to write, I will finish a chapter and go, this could be brilliant or this could be garbage, and I have no idea, and I'm on book 4. Like, it never gets easier. It never gets easier.
So here's a question I'm curious about on this topic, because it's something I've actually experienced myself, is when do you think that the Lord is shutting a door? Like, this is no longer for you, brought you down this path for a reason, but now it's a new path.
Yeah.
And when do you feel like it's time to keep going?
He will normally tell me. He'll normally say, no more. You're done. And sometimes it's as simple as, I wish that like an angel would float down, but it's never happened. But sometimes it's as simple as just hearing, you're done with this.
Really?
You need to quit.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll pray and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And if I'm not supposed to do it, you need to stop me.
Yes.
I'm going balls to the wall here. So let's see what happens. And if I'm not supposed to do it, it'll be really clear.
Yeah. I kind of love that you just said balls to the wall and prayer in the same sentence. Like, that's amazing.
Keeping it real.
I love it. I love it. Yes. And it's so interesting because some people say they can really hear the Lord, like clear. And some people find it like he speaks through maybe other believers or shows.
Yeah, and that happens for me. I mean, I don't hear him often. It's not like I say, what do I have for breakfast today? Normally he'll just step in when it's something big to make sure that I know. And it's normally something that I don't want to hear. If I hear something and it sounds like it could be Alli saying that to myself, I ask if he'll send other believers in my life to confirm it. I won't go ask for it, because you can plant that seed in someone's head and they'll be like, sure, I prayed and I felt like it's good. Like, I will literally bring people who don't know about this situation to me and have them tell me. Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful.
But here's the thing. Going back to it, opposition and difficulty and closed doors does not mean we're on the wrong path. Right. It just means we have a fight on our hands.
Right.
Because nothing's going to come easy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's such a great spiritual perspective. And something I've always thought too is from a business perspective. If somebody's going to hand you the formula, it's probably not genuinely you.
Exactly.
You know, like as you're building, you're taking on this step-by-step formula that somebody's giving you. Probably reach a certain point where you're going to have to say, okay, being totally authentically me is going to take removing that roadblock, really digging in the dirt, getting rid of those weeds.
Absolutely.
So good. So that actually, I'm like referring back to your book for the talking points, but I can't do this anymore. I think that's something that we just talked about, which has been really interesting. Do you have any other thoughts on like this idea of I'm growing my business and I can't do this anymore? I've heard a lot of people say that.
Yeah. And I think that comes from the root of disappointment.
And
it's something that we tell ourselves. We're disappointed. That's the core feeling. We're a little bit depressed.
Yeah.
We're sucked into comparison, which, side note, I think in 5 years or 10 years, we are going to look back on this time in history and be like, we were killing ourselves on social media. Everybody pretending to be amazing, and we were actually damaging ourselves by comparing ourselves to others. Because researchers have shown that even when you know social media isn't real, even when you know it's brand positioning, even when you know all those things, your subconscious, you can't control it, it automatically starts comparing with other people. Anyway. Yeah. I think we're in a really dangerous time period.
Good.
Yeah.
A lot of people haven't looked at the research. They just kind of look at what people are teaching around Instagram and how to get leads around Instagram, but maybe haven't taken into consideration the subconscious impact. I'm curious, like, how do you balance that? You have a great following and you have a beautiful feed. Like, how do you balance that with the way that you feel about yourself?
I don't scroll.
You don't?
I don't scroll.
Okay.
Now, from a business perspective, before the next book comes out, I know I'll have to spend a lot of time on Instagram engaging, probably for 6 months before my book comes out. I have to. But I don't engage that much whatsoever. I watch people's stories and I engage on stories. Cool. I send DMs on stories or share stories all day long because stories is where people are real.
Yes.
But the feed isn't where people are real. The feed is normally just positioning, brand positioning, right? Yes. So I will, I post in my own feed. Blissdom has a whole great social media account that is doing amazing. But I don't let myself get sucked in because we can't control our subconscious. And our subconscious automatically kicks in and starts going, well, look at that opportunity. Look what he's doing. Look what she's doing. And I have to, as a business owner, as a coach, as a creative, I have to protect my brain space so I can help people and I can, write this book.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is amazing. When Apple started doing those screen time notifications, did you feel like people, like it was just like confession time?
I realized I was a terrible hypocrite because in one of my books, I forget which one, I had talked about how I post on social media and then I'm out, maybe 15 minutes a day. Oh no, I'm there like 2 hours. I was like, oh, well, I'm a liar. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, it's terrible. I don't even want to check. I don't even want to check screen time. But going back to what we tell ourselves with I can't do this anymore, a lot of it, so the root is the disappointment, the comparison, the exhaustion of scaling.
Yeah.
But what we have to be mindful of and what we have to be careful of is monitoring our mindset, monitoring that thought loop that goes on in our head. So much of Fierce Faith is just helping you monitor your thought loop.
Yes.
Because these things that we tell ourselves affect our action. When we say, oh, I just can't do this anymore, we start believing it.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I can't do this anymore, what we can say is, this is hard. This has sucked, but these are the goals I have. And I'm going to be really kind to myself and I'm going to keep going.
Yep.
Sometimes we say things like, I can't do this anymore out of habit. And we don't realize the power that our words and our thoughts have on us, have on our minds and our hearts. Yeah.
One of my favorite things about Fierce Faith was that you really took that idea of mindfulness that tends to be a little bit more new agey and a little bit more like woo-woo, right? And then when I started reading, I decided to start reading a new version of the Bible recently, or a new translation called the Passion Translation. I really like it. Yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I grew up with NIV, so it was really new. But what I realized is that when you go back to the Aramaic, it's like it talks a lot about your thoughts. Talks a lot about it, and you really address that in a spiritual way, in a biblical way, in a theological way. That is something that I think a lot of people think is new agey, but it's not.
No, it's just practical.
Yes.
How we behave is based on our heart. Our heart affects our thoughts. Our thoughts affect how we behave. It's why one of the key parts of Christianity is guard your heart.
Yes.
We have to guard our thoughts because our thoughts and our words are so powerful. They really shape the world around us and our futures.
Yes. So as people are scaling and is there any other way that they really should be guarding their heart that you can think about?
Honestly, right now, protecting ourselves in social media. Two things I work with clients with. Now, there's a time for competitive analysis. You want to know what the competition's doing. You want to study everything that they're doing well because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. If somebody is just killing it in business, you can go look at what they're doing and go, okay, I see them doing this. I see this strategy. These are replicable things.
Yeah.
You want to go in and do a lot of competitive analysis, and then you want to ban yourself from ever looking at them again.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So you want to protect yourself on social media from comparison, but also you want to go on an information diet. Mm-hmm. Because what I see a lot of entrepreneurs doing is they listen to every business podcast out there and they will think, well, this podcast is talking about this, so obviously I should be doing it. Well, there's a million things to do. Yeah. One of the problems with a business podcast is you run out of things to talk about because there's only so many things you can talk about in terms of marketing. And then you have to have a guest. And then you listen to that podcast and you're like, that was a great interview with that guy who runs a chat bot. And so you're like, well, apparently I need a chat bot now. Well, do you? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So I think an information diet is really important. We need to know, I believe everyone should have a coach. Everyone should have a mentor because we can't see our own blind spots. Like I mentioned, I'm on book 4. Even though I'm on book 4, I hired a brand new book coach for me to send every chapter to. And I literally said to him, I don't need you to write. I don't need you to tell me what to say, but I need you to rip this apart. If anything is boring, if anything is repetitive, if I'm not precious with it, I just want to help people. And if any of those things happen, tell me. And he believed me. And every time I meet with him, it's like, help. But he's bringing out good work in me. So everybody needs a coach. Everyone needs a mentor. Everybody needs somebody who cares enough to kick your butt and to say, this is where you're slacking. But if you have those things, you need to lay off social media and you need to lay off the business podcast. Listen to 1 or 2. Yeah. But I find often people are listening to 5 or 6. And they're like, I should document every moment of my life like Gary Vee, and I should have chatbots, and I should do this, and I should do webinars. No, you should do what works in your business, not just things that sometimes people have a financial interest in telling you that you need.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like you are speaking so much truth right now in exactly what people are experiencing. And it's funny because both you and I have experience with business strategy. And so people say the same thing to me. They're like, should I have a group? I'm like, what's your strategy?
Right.
No?
Should you? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
What was that going to speak to your ideal customer? Then like maybe, right?
I was consulting with a church, and the person I was working with said the pastor wants to know if we should go ahead and get ClickFunnels.
What is it?
ClickFunnels, that product. And I was like,
I thought I heard you wrong.
I was like, no, absolutely. You do not need ClickFunnels. Like, it's a great marketing campaign. It's great. You probably heard it on a podcast, but no, it's not going to help us in any way, shape, or form.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I'm sort of blown away that your pastor would know that.
I know.
The churches are bigger down by you.
Here's the thing. Obviously, there was an Instagram ad or there's a Facebook ad, and you got sucked into that funnel, and it's a genius funnel. I have ClickFunnels myself, but it doesn't mean that everybody strategically needs it. Yeah.
Right. Or that's going to speak to the heart of your ideal client. Totally. What about the I'm not good enough?
Oh, that's everybody.
Right.
That's everybody. I mean, unless you're a narcissist. So if anybody's listening and you're like, I never feel that way, you may want to check your heart.
Stop.
Because, yeah. Let's just
Psychology Today. No, I'm just kidding.
Everyone feels like they're not good enough. Everyone at times feels like they're in over their head. Everybody, because in this entrepreneurial world, there's no path that's ever been set before us. So we are, especially as women, we're the first generation of women that have ever done this. We are pioneers of this space. The way we do things now will teach the women that come up behind us for generations to come. No one has ever said, here's exactly how to do it. Here's lessons. Here's mistakes. We're all figuring it out as we go. Mm-hmm. And because of that, this feeling of I'm not good enough and I can't do it and I'm in over my head and I don't have all the answers. Of course we feel like that. Like we're like on the Oregon Trail here.
Yeah.
Figuring out this world. So of course we're going to feel like we're not good enough doing it, because there are a million problems that pop up every day that have never come up before that we have to figure out. That's the excitement, that's the challenge, that's the difficulty, and sometimes that's the heartbreak of entrepreneurship. But just because we feel like we aren't good enough to do it, it doesn't mean we have to let that thought change our actions. We can say, I don't feel good enough to do this, and go, but I'm going to give it my best shot anyway.
Yes.
What's the alternative? Packing up and not doing it? That's no fun.
That's no fun.
Yeah. We can just like limp over the finish line and look back and go, I didn't know what I was doing half of the time, but it was a wild ride, and look, I did it. Yeah.
Do you think this is uniquely challenging for women?
Yes. Don't get me started on the difference between women and men. Because I have sons. I see how they operate. I was on a coaching call this week with a client. Oh, I know. And I was telling her that after she ends one relationship with a corporate client, giving her some steps to go ahead and get referrals from them and what the steps are and how to phrase things. And there was a long pause. And I said, you're really uncomfortable right now, aren't you? Because you can't imagine yourself doing this. And she said, I can't imagine myself doing this. And I said, you know who would do this well? Dudes. They would walk into that meeting and be like, who needs to know me? Who do I need to work with next? And they won't think a thing about it. Like, right. They would. And there's research, I think Sheryl Sandberg is the one that shared it originally, that if there's a job opening, if there's an opportunity, if there's 10 things that people need to have, if a guy has 3, he's in there. He's like, I'm applying. They're going to love me. A woman won't apply if she only has 8. She'll be like, I need to spend some time working on these other 2 things. And what I tell people is sometimes we need to like embrace our inner dude.
Yes.
Be like, what would some goofy dude, he's just going to go for, what would he do? And then we just need to act like that. Embrace your inner dude.
I love that. And it's so true. And anytime you meet a male CEO, I've worked with some, and I'm sure you have too, like, you know, I'll ask like, oh, you know, how did you know you could do this? And he's like, I just did.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
why wouldn't I be able to run this company? Like, why wouldn't I be able to run this $40 million company? I mean, like it's hard.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, come on.
Exactly. So you find your inner dude,
Yeah.
you just go for it.
Yep. I
Yeah.
always think about Legally Blonde when she gets asked, you got into Harvard? And she's like, it's hard.
It's hard.
Like,
I don't even like rom-coms, but that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah.
yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
So what about what was I thinking when I thought I could do this? What is that filled with?
That's a great question. I've never overthought it. I've never analyzed it, but I know we do it. And I think that it's low key shaming of ourselves.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. And I think for most of us, most people grow up in homes where shame is an accidental parenting tool. Parents don't mean to do it, but there are these, even the most loving parents, because it's hard to parent well. We do a lot of things wrong.
Yeah.
But what are you thinking? How did you think this was a good idea? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you is banned in this house because it's vague and accusatory. It's not like, why did you do that? What's wrong with you? Just sounds, I don't know. I guess I suck, right?
Right.
But that's that sort of messaging sometimes that we hear as children that's directed to us as a person as opposed to our behavior. Yep. And then without realizing it, we subconsciously agree with it, and we spit those same messages back out at ourselves all the time.
Yep. Yeah. Do you think it's a deep down worthiness conversation?
It could be. It could be. Yeah. And I think that worthiness is tough. So for me, from a Christian perspective, I know that I am worthy because of my faith. Right. I know that grounded in Christ, I am worthy. He makes me enough. I have unlimited resources at my disposal because I'm a person of faith. But if you take faith out of the equation, you get a lot of pump you up, new agey.
Yes.
You're worthy because you're great.
Yep.
So that's a tough one. It's a tough one to coach people through also as a coach, because I'm never going to push my faith onto somebody else.
Right.
Right. But how do you solve the worthiness dilemma if you aren't a person of faith? That's tough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because it can be very much, okay, I'm worthy because of something happening within me.
Yeah.
But to a certain degree, that's challenging too, because
it's dependent on your behavior.
Yeah. And we weren't born perfect.
Yeah, exactly. We are all messed up and crazy.
We're all messed up and crazy inside. Yeah. And despite your Instagram newsfeed, we're all a little crazy.
I always joke that the more perfect the Instagram newsfeed is, the crazier the person is in the background.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Yeah, I've seen too much go down through the years.
that I'm biting my tongue right now, because now I'm okay, now what? What happened? I want to know. But we'll save that for the Blissdom Conference. You'll have to chat it up there. You have to go and have fun there. So those are really the four main thoughts that I wanted to unpack. Because again, it's something, I think when I first started coaching, to be honest, I was I've been doing business strategy forever. I could totally help these people. And then as I started getting into teaching business strategy, I'm I'm teaching the wrong thing. I realized that about with my group coaching programs. It got to the point where I would just stop teaching strategy for a while and try to get people to catch up with taking action and thinking and having confidence in themselves. And I was really surprised by that, because I think I probably forgot. It's not that I didn't experience it. It's just that I forgot what it's like to be growing for the first time.
I tell everyone that strategy and the mechanics, that's 20%. Our mindset and how we lead ourselves and how we manage ourselves, that's 80%. So every once in a while, when someone wants to work with me, we'll start working together, and I'll get a note from them, and it will say, "Can you tell me how long this will take?" And it's really tough because you can't answer it in text because there's so many variables, and the biggest variable is how fast are you going to go? Right. What are your roadblocks? What are those things you don't realize yet that are holding you back and that we need to work together and get over? You can't say 3 months or 12 months or 18 months. We don't know. Yeah. That's one of the hardest things about coaching, because so much of it is a really personal relationship.
Right.
And working with people in their blind spots.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. How many months am I going to get stuck in a conversation that isn't serving me?
Exactly.
So, and how long is it going to take me to move through that? And I think what was interesting is that for me, I have no judgment around that, right? But it's tough too, because I often know that like, that's like, there's so much joy on the other side of that conversation.
Yeah, it's hard work. It's important work.
Yes.
And it's the best work we'll ever do in our lives.
Yeah.
Because that work, not only can it transform our business and help our business grow and help us reach our dreams, but it transforms our marriages and our relationship with our children and how we see ourselves. There's no more important work to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
How has growing a business, this is my last question, how has growing a business impacted your faith?
Oh, it's a great question. I think here's what's amazing. It keeps me humble.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing. It keeps me focused on serving other people and not just trying to, do things for me. It's funny. I told somebody recently, I was like, I could build a program on this and make $10 million next year, but it'd be stealing from people. And like, God would not be happy. Like, there are things we can do in business to make a lot of money, but it doesn't serve people, right? And we can't do it perfect. But it's just such a reminder that He is so active in my life, and that He is directing what I do to make sure that I'm doing it for my good and for other people's good and for His glory.
Yes. I think for me, it's reminded me that I'm a child of God, not of the world. Because when business is really good, it's really easy to think you're a child of the world.
100%.
And when business is not good, when something happens, an external, I was just talking to the CEO of a national company before I got on this call, and there's something in her industry that is happening that is significantly impacting her locations. And it's a scary, challenging thing. It's around sexual assault. And so it's, when we can remember that we're a child of God in those moments, it has a lot less to do with us and a lot more to do with what is the opportunity to serve. And I think that it took me a long time to figure out. Remember, I'm on Enneagram 3. So that took me a long time to figure out.
I love it.
My business is not me, Exactly.
It's not about achievement.
Yeah. Yeah. The more, press I got, or the more accolades, it was the better I felt about myself. Yeah, exactly. And it was a really good reminder that if that ever goes away, or once it goes away, then we're left with that relationship that we have with God. And ultimately, that's what needs to define us anyways.
Yeah. And as a women of faith, as people of faith, I believe that it is our job to outwork the will of God on the planet through our work. So whether we're helping a CEO of a company be more successful, that's outworking the will of God. Whether it is, starting a nursery and supplying beautiful plants to the people of your community, well, God cares about that. Yeah. All the work that we do, all the good work, all the work that actually helps people thrive and helps people flourish, that's outworking His will on the planet. We're doing good things for Him. And I think that makes Him happy.
Yeah, I think so too. Mm-hmm. So if this interview spoke to you in the way I know it did, Alli has a very generous offer. This is her beautiful book. It's reverse on the video, but when you get it in your download, it won't be. So just make sure you download the first chapter of it. Fall in love with it like I did. I referred it, I was texting my friends pages when I was reading it. Then you go ahead and Amazon and grab it as well. And then if you're going to the Blissdom Conference, please let us know. Please jump into the Facebook group. Let us know. You can meet some other people who are going, and we would just love to connect with you in that way. So make sure that you download that first chapter of Fierce Faith beneath here. I just want to thank you so much, Alli, for just sharing who you are, your heart, and your faith with us today.
Thank you. It's been great to be here.